Hey guys, it's Adam here, and I'm here with Beardy. In today's video, we're going to be doing an in-depth review of Eco Earth Substrate. Tell you if he likes it. Alright, so for you guys who've watched my other video, um, back in August, we switched out the entire tank. We were using Eco Carpet when he was a baby, and right around, I don't know, 7-8 months old, we decided to switch to a loose substrate, and we decided to go with the Eco Earth. So if you guys, I'll try and leave a link in the description to that video if you want to see how I put this all together. But basically, we're in December now. We're getting around 5-6 months of having this in here, and I think it's time that we change this out for some new stuff. And I just want to do a review on the product, on the Eco Earth product, because I know some of you guys were asking how I liked it and if I'm going to continue using it or not. Beardy is quite a bit bigger than last time we saw him, but there he is, basking on his log. And if you notice, that hammock's not in the corner anymore, and the reason for that is he actually went through a period of time when all he wanted to do is lay in that hammock, and he was actually laying in the hammock all day long. And if you can tell where my lights are, his basking spot's over here, and the hammock was in this corner over here, and that wasn't good. We would actually go in the afternoon, and he was still laying there, just like dark colored and black, and I'd pick him up, and he was like cold. That's how much he wanted to stay in his hammock. So I actually removed it, just didn't give him the option anymore, and then he finally started using his basking spot again. So part of the reason why I wanted to use Eco Earth is because I wanted to give him something to dig in, and that has certainly been an awesome part of having it. As you can see, everything's kind of thrashed around here. He throws his stuff all around. I actually have to go through probably like once every other week and smooth stuff back out again, because he just he goes around and just digs holes and throws it all off to one side. He's kind of crazy like that. But he does bask on his rock and his logs, and I mean, it's kind of funny. They're interesting. They don't really do the same thing all the time. Every night he sleeps at a different spot. Sometimes we come in, he'll be in this front corner. Sometimes he'll be back on his log. Sometimes he'll be back in this back corner back here, hiding with just his head sticking out. But he doesn't just stay there. He does walk around and use his entire enclosure now, which before he didn't. He just stayed on his hammock under his lights, and that's all he did. So I've seen quite an improvement in just his activity within the cage, which I was happy about. So I don't know if you can tell in the video or not, but there is quite a bit of dirt on everything in this cage. Even on his rock here, you can kind of see there's a texture to it. That's actually just dirt. So if I stick my finger, you can see that is dust. And he kind of has a little bit of a dark coloration. If I were to give him a bath right now, he would actually be quite a bit lighter than he is right now. Hey Beardy, you don't like me talking right next to you. He's a little flared out right now. But it is very dusty. I didn't notice any real dust for the first probably 2 months. It was a little bit moist when I first put it in, but it dried out within a few days, and I didn't really notice things getting very dusty. But probably in the last month or two, for some reason, I don't know if just from him kicking it around so much, he really broke it down. It's just, there is dust all over the place. And I actually noticed when I give him a bath, his nostrils kind of have a little bit of the dirt in. Now I haven't noticed anything as far as his breathing being a problem, or his eyes getting any dust in his eyes or anything like that. And it really doesn't seem to be bothering him. In fact, usually when I give him a bath, it kind of reminds me of like a dog. When you give a dog a bath, he'll actually come in and just like rub his nose right in the dirt, just like flop around the dirt, like he doesn't like being clean or something. But I don't know. I know it's not good for them to be in a dusty environment, so I'm not too impressed with that. I thought about misting it down occasionally just to cut down on the dust, but I never did then. I didn't want to raise the humidity up in his tank regularly like that. I did give it a good mist down one time when we were giving him a bath, and then what he did, he came back from his bath and just kind of rolled through it, and it became almost like sticky then, and it just got all over him. Like I had to give him another bath because it was just coated in the substrate. So, not too impressed with that part of it. Now you can see bearded dragons like to make a mess when they eat. Now we've been using like a plate to put his food on, and I actually just got this bowl recently to put his food in because he actually just like thrashes his food around. We put it in and he like stomps on it and just knocks it everywhere, and it just gets all in the dirt. Now we're planning on switching this out very soon. There's a little bit of a shed skin. I'm planning on switching this out very soon, so that's why it's looking so messy. But this is probably what you can expect to find if you're using Eco Earth for your bearded dragon. This is what it's going to look like after using it for a little while. But he does love to dig in it. He actually digs straight down to the bottom. Now there's probably a good inch or two of substrate here yet, but you can see once you get down to the bottom, it is just the glass bottom there. So he has gotten down to the glass bottom quite a bit, and that's usually when I flatten it back out again. So he does dig right through it. He doesn't really sleep in it though. I think at the end of my video I showed him he went right underneath this cave in there and slept that first night. He did that a few times, but for the most part he sleeps up on his rocks. So yeah, I mean overall, I mean if you think about the difference between this and the Repti carpet, I would probably prefer this over Repti carpet, and this is very, very cheap stuff. I think I paid maybe $7 for this whole bedding, so that'll last you 6 months. So $6, that's twice a year. $12 for an entire year for substrate. That's extremely inexpensive. And the smell, I have not noticed any smell whatsoever coming out of his enclosure. You know, when he poops, you can see a poop on his log there that actually didn't get cleaned. I need to clean that. But there is no smell. This stuff really absorbs the smell. But as you can see, it is very dirty. It is very dusty. And it's all over. Everything is covered in like that dust. So, spoiler alert, I don't think I'm going to be replacing it with Eco Earth. I'm actually going to try sand next. And I have, what I think I'm going to do is put a sand mat down first, one of those like Repti carpet sand mats, just so there's not bare glass on the very bottom layer. And then I'm going to put a thin layer of sand over top of that, just enough that he can still kind of scratch around in it and dig. But if he does dig down to the bottom, at least he's not scratching on just glass or whatever. Now the reason I delayed this review quite a bit is just because soon after we changed this out, it wasn't right away. Like usually when you change up their enclosures, it kind of throws their whole system off and they won't eat right. You know, they kind of act a little weird. Like they're almost irritated that you change things up in their enclosure. Now he did a little bit, but he would still eat for me. We used to feed him in his cage, but since we switched to Eco Earth, we don't feed him on this. We actually put him in a separate tub and feed him his bugs in there, which was a completely different routine for him as well. And I mean, that it kind of threw him off a little, but he was eating bugs for us. Within a couple days, he was back to normal bug eating and stuff. However, soon after that, he really started slowing down on his eating. And I was kind of getting worried, like maybe he was getting impacted or something, like maybe he was eating the substrate and it was clogging him up and ruining his appetite. But I actually think what happened was he just kind of hit his max length. Like he just kind of slowed down on his growing, and his appetite just really, really slowed down as a result of that. So, whereas before he was eating like tons and tons of bugs every day, and sometimes eating greens, he kind of went down to only eating a couple bugs every day and not even touching his greens. So what I ended up doing then was I kind of withheld all bugs for, how long was it? Maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks, and just put greens in just to try and get him to start eating his greens. And then he did start, eventually he got hungry enough, he started eating his greens a little more, so then I brought bugs back in. But even when I brought the bugs back in, he would eat, like right now he'll eat maybe 2 to 3 max full-size dubia roaches, which is, for an adult bearded dragon, that's actually probably a belly full for him. There's a lot of nutrition in a full-grown dubia roach. But I will feed him now probably once every 3 days. Will I feed him roaches or superworms? And the other days I'll put greens in there. And now again, he's kind of going through a fussy stage where he doesn't want to eat his greens. So I've been trying a few things here, separating out his different foods into piles just to see what he does like and what he doesn't like. I've been trying, I just got some flower topper. Yeah, I'll pull the bag down here. I'll pull the flower topper. This stuff right here, which is like fresh dried flowers and stuff, just to give them some variety. So it's winter time here in Pennsylvania, and we don't have the fresh produce that we had before. I had like some fresh mint and some fresh basil that I had put in his tank, but of course that stuff died off now and is no longer in season, so I don't have that luxury of having that stuff in his cage. He was eating that very well. So basically the greens that we're buying is stuff from the grocery store, which isn't as fresh, so I think that has probably a little bit to do with why he doesn't want to eat them as much. So we're trying to get him back on the greens again, and he actually doesn't really prefer dubia roaches. He actually prefers the superworms or crickets. So we've been trying to give him a varied bug diet as well. And I've been throwing some superworms in a salad to try and get him to eat the salad. So that's kind of where we're at. But as far as his health, like, he is very, very active when we get him out. Like he'll kind of sit and bask and chill in his cage. But if we get him out, he runs around, he's very active. He holds himself up. He was getting very, very chunky just because we were feeding him like crazy when he was growing up. But you can kind of see I don't think he's underweight. Like, he's at a healthy weight right now, I think, actually. Before, his belly was just like dragging on the ground. He was so fat. So we've been trying to not feed him quite so much just so he's not obese. But as far as energy and stuff, he seems to have pretty good energy. In addition to changing out the substrate, I'm looking at getting a tube UVB instead of the coil, which I recommend everybody recommends the tubes as an upgrade. And I'm going to get a 24-inch LED light that has, I'm sorry, not an LED light. It is a T5 tube light UVB that has LED grow lights built into it. So that way I can have some plants in there year round, and they will get some light that they can continue to grow. And we ordered some prickly pear cactuses to throw in there. for the winter time. That hopefully will thrive in the dry environment there. And then I think what I'll do for his heat is I'm actually going to, instead of having the coil UVB in the second slot there, I'm going to put a smaller watt heat bulb, and then I'm going to raise it up a little bit just to distribute the heat a little more evenly on his hot side, so it's not quite so direct right on that spot only. So right there I have it at around 105 degrees, which is ideal for basking, but once you get off of that specific spot right there, it drops off dramatically. So I'm probably only around 86, just like over here on this section here, and like up in the log here, it's only around 86. So if I get some more wattage of heat and just, I don't want to burn them out, like I'll probably get some kind of stand just to get this up off the cage a little, so it's still only reaching, 105, 110 max, but it's just going to spread it out a little more. And I'm thinking the heat is just going to help his appetite a little bit out as well. And then of course the addition of the tube UVB is going to really help out his appetite as well. So I'll show you guys the final product here in a minute. I just want to give you guys my detailed review. In general, my recommendation is, it is not ideal. It's not the perfect substrate for a bearded dragon, but I do think it is suitable. Obviously it's a loose substrate, so you got to make sure you have his heat and his diet very, very carefully done, because they can ingest that and they can get impacted. But if you have a really good setup and they're getting the heat and the vitamins and the diet that they need, they're fine on a loose substrate. I'm not as concerned about a loose substrate, but it's really good at absorbing odors. It's really good for digging and enrichment in that way, but it is very, very dusty, and I don't think that's necessarily the best environment to keep your bearded dragon in. But if you're on a budget, it's probably one of the cheapest things you can get. And it's kind of like the poor man's bioactive setup, I guess, would be a good way to put it. But I'm going to just try out sand for my next substrate, just because this is my first bearded dragon, and I just want to try some different things to see which one I like the best. So yeah, I don't know that I would, if you have a system that works good now, like tile works really well. Tile is actually what a lot of people prefer. I just don't like tile because I don't like the look of tile. Like, I wanted to have a more natural look. So if you have tile and it works great for you, I wouldn't cover your tiles up with Eco Earth anytime soon. But if you're looking as an alternative to like an Eco carpet or Repti carpet, or the calci sand is terrible, or the crushed walnut shells, I know is supposedly like a kind of a bad one for impaction, and you want to look for an alternative that's cheap, go right ahead. It worked fine for him. He's thriving in there, and I'll be right back with the new setup. Thanks, guys. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this in the future. I tried to cover as best as I could. If I forgot anything and you had any questions, feel free to leave a comment down below. I'm going to leave a link to my previous videos, and keep your eyes open. I'm going to be doing a review on all the lights as well as a video on how I did this whole transformation. So take care guys, good to see you.